All right. Well, welcome everyone to Next Level by Association Virtual. Those of you that are familiar with Next Level by Association, we've been doing it for 10 years. Eiji Morishita was actually one of the first members early on in the first couple of years. And the cool thing is that we do one a month. The unfortunate part is I can only do one a month. So that means I can only have 12 guest of honors in the course of a year. But what we started this year was starting to do a virtual one like this, where I can bring on a different guest of honor every week. So I can have 52, and which is awesome because I meet a lot of great people like Eiji does. And so to have a spot where I can actually put them and bring their message to you guys is really a cool place for me to be able to do it. And so really excited today because if you guys don't know Eiji already, you're going to love his heart, but you're going to also love his mission now, what he's doing. You're going to love the evolution that he's gone through from being a speaker trainer to, everything else along the way to where he's at now, where he just looks like he's at home, where he just looks like he's feeling that this is his purpose in life. So that's a cool place to be whenever you can get to that place where you actually feel like you're living out your purpose. So Eiji Morishita, brother, we've known each other for what, 9-10 years now?
Yeah, just about almost a decade.
Yeah. And, we've seen each other evolve, and we've seen each other, move in different directions and come back to center and do things. When I first met you, you were really passionate about going out and speaking and stuff. But let's go back to some of your family history, because this is all about your story and that story about, sushi and everything else. Tell us about that, because that's a cool story.
Yeah, definitely. Well, growing up, I grew up literally in a restaurant, and I was firstborn in my family. My family's Japanese and didn't speak English till I was 5. And, but really it's like, my parents were gone a lot, but my key story real quick is growing up, I always felt I was different. Like I grew up, it was the 80s. Picture the 80s in Los Angeles right now, and then sushi was not really popular at all, early on. So during 4th grade or so, we went out to Cabrillo Beach on a field trip, and I was a 4th grader at the time, and I was sitting all alone, with my bento box, and I just wish, I wish I had a brown paper bag lunch with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I felt totally different, totally isolated. The teachers thought it was cool, but the other kids, they're like, that's not, what is this? What is this box you're bringing in? It's not a sandwich, And if I ever brought in sushi, everyone's like, ugh, gross. That's raw fish. That's fish bait. That's yucky. And so really, really felt different. And just one thing led to another. And my name is one of the most, I think it's easy to say, but from the letters, it's one of the most difficult. Only 1 in 100 people pronounce it right the first time. And I think unless you're Japanese, maybe Nigerian, because the same, or some other, but in America, only 1 in 100 get it right. And so and I knew I was going to go into business or study business. So I was legally going to change my name. I was going to change my name to John, just so people can easily pronounce my name. And in college, my professor said, hold on here. Can you imagine me now just being named John? And I love John. John's it's a very, good name. Nothing wrong with John. But so the college professor said, do some research. So I did some research on my name. And the EI, it's a symbol for England and English. So I thought, oh, well, I'm firstborn in my family, so maybe that's why. But also it's the same symbol for hero as well. And then JI means to power, govern, and rule, be an authority, but also means to heal. So even back then when I was 18 years old, I thought I like hero and healer. So, and that's when I made the big shift. And I feel this is a core part of my message is I made the realization that I'm not different, I'm unique. Because difference implies separation, being disconnected, right? And unique means I'm connected with you, and I can celebrate my own individuality or uniqueness. And that was a huge turning point in my life and that increased my self-esteem, my self-image increased, and I stepped into leadership. And what used to be my pain and struggle now is my strength, because I went through so much pain and challenge as a little kid. My mind is wired to see the uniqueness in others. Like, I don't believe there's any single person on the planet who is not unique. No one has the same passion, talent, skills, and experiences. And I think God made us all individually unique, but also we're meant to be connected.
Wow.
So that's the backstory of how that all happened.
So, let's go there, because most people would just feel different, and then they would just stop because they would just say they feel different. What was it that led you or allowed you to see it differently?
I think it was I think my way was really understanding self-discovery and studying. Like, I think every single one of us should study our name and the origin, so we can ask our family members, why did you name us our name? Like, I don't believe anything happens for just randomly. But also, if you look, I mean, there's a lot of Davids, and look at what David in history. You have Alexander, you have Alexandria, you have all these names, but I think many of us don't really get to look at the names and the meanings of it, and then model. So I think that really helped, because I did have that mentor. He had these glasses and a beard. He kind of looked like Obi-Wan Kenobi, a college, typical college English professor look. And but that kind of shifted my paradigm, that I thought, oh, this is such a disadvantage, and it became one of my advantages. And so,
wow,
yeah, I think that's, and all,
you know, that part of the story. That's very cool.
Yeah, and also, there's a lot of people who have accents coming into this country, right? And most people think, as a speaker, it's a disadvantage. But when I hear a English accent or Australian accent or Russian accent, German, I think that's really cool, because it definitely makes you sound different. It's like, oh, where are you from? You're not from here. So it's definitely something that's interesting. And I think most people, there's so much pressure to assimilate and be like everyone else. And I think the key lesson is, from my personal journey, is I've had a hard time fitting in to a group where it's just like, oh yeah, this is my people, and I realized, like, if you've ever struggled to fit into groups, or and your group, well, here's the thing: Next Level by Association is one of the best groups I've ever been part of. You attract high caliber people, and the honored guests you bring is just phenomenal. I mean, they're just like, the stories that they share, and the world-class connections that you bring in, that, I'm honored to actually be here, coming back full circle to be a, honored guest here. And I think it's really about really celebrating our uniqueness, but also realizing we're the same in our challenges, the emotions, the frustrations, the struggle, and we're all the same. And we're unique at the same time.
Yeah. I love that message. It's a great message. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and thank you for the kind words about NLBA. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Eiji, you have, I've seen you have 2 little kids now. I've seen, you and your wife celebrate many things. I've seen you go in one direction in business and add things to it, and then subtract things, and then change direction, and now you're you've spoken on some of the biggest stages. You've gone out and shared the stages with some of the biggest speakers. You have literally traveled the world, and now you've centered in on this whole movement maker. Can you explain the process of how you got from speaking on stages, coaching, training speakers, everything else, to now you're just talking about this, so focused on being a movement maker?
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely not a straight line, for sure, Bob. As you know, life is very, very. So originally, back in 2009, I had a car accident in 2006, and it was I was driving. I was actually in direct sales network marketing time, and I was giving out this business presentation out in Orange County. It was I forgot what the name is. It's right next to Seal Beach. It's some small city next to Seal Beach. And So anyway, so on my way, I'm driving on the 5 from LA to Orange County, and then I get rear-ended. And it's like, and then it wasn't a major damage, but it was kind of a hit and run. And that I ended up not thinking, I still ended up driving, I don't know how, to Orange County, deliver the presentation. I was still in shock. And then the next day I woke up and I couldn't move. Like it literally, my back was hurting. And the worst part was my mental. Like I had brain fog. I got easily triggered and angry. I couldn't put my thoughts straight together. And I didn't know what to do. Like I didn't even think about checking myself in a hospital because my thoughts about mental health is, well, I can't tell people what's going on in my head. Otherwise, they'll put me in a straitjacket and put me to the mental institute, and I don't want that. So I just went to prayer, and I prayed literally like this is on my spiritual journey is like I prayed, God, if you ever get my mental health back, I would never take it for granted again. And within 6 weeks, my mind started getting back to full function, and I developed this passion to study geniuses because to find out what makes them really operate at a high level. And what I found out is the good news for all of us is we're all geniuses. Studies have showed that we are all 99.9% of all children at 18 months are, this is a Harvard study, are operate at a genius level. Wow. And it's not about IQ. Most people think it's about IQ, which is just reading, writing, and math. And I don't have a high IQ. But then there's like Michael Jordan is an athletic genius. And you have, so I started a personal development company first called Genius Squared. And it was way too early. I was like, I don't know how old I was, like 2008. So 34. So I didn't really have much of a track record. I was still new, didn't have much experience. It was casting too wide of a net, saying, you know, I'm going to develop this personal development company on helping people find their genius. And I struggled for a couple years. And then that's when in 2011, I pivoted to speaker training because I got mentored by, his name is Clinton Swain, Australian, based in San Diego. He does trainings in UK and Australia, Malaysia. And I've done hundreds of hours of speaker training, and I was pretty good at it that I decided to pivot to speaker training, but there was a inciting incident back in December 2010, where there's this contest, and I think we knew each other at the time. They're called Ready for the Stage. It was this contest in the East Coast, and I published on social media. I got one of the top 10 finalists, and it was to show if you're ready for a stage. It was held by Suzanne Evans, David Nagel, Barry and Blue. They're all 7-figure entrepreneurs in the space. And I didn't make the top 4, which got on stage and got to share their story. But one of the key things I realized at the event was I was just sitting in the audience and like looking around, and they made an offer. And I said, they're really great business coaches, and I've hired both of them for business coaching at one point, but I could do a better job doing speaker training, and just from all my experience. And so that led to within 6 months doing my first live event in May 2011. And what really worked was I focused, because if you don't have a huge track record, focus and specialize on something. So the more expertise and credibility you have, and the more general you can be, or the more unique your solution is, the more general the audience. But the more general your solution is, the more specific your solution has to be. So speaker training for entrepreneurs and coaches was my way, which started bringing, revenue and income to feed my family. I have 2 little kids and stuff like that. But I had to specialize for a while. I had to establish my expertise in one area before moving on to the next area. And I think that was really key. And the Movement Makers came about. Because I realized, when I interviewed my family, we found out we were pioneers in the sushi movement and spread of sushi. Because in 2004, my mom called me up, and I was kind of a little lost, and said, we're opening up 2 restaurants at the same time. Help us manage one of the restaurants. And so I moved down to LA, and we didn't do a grand opening back then. And if you Yelp sushi in Los Angeles today, you'll see 3,000 results. Just even in Orange County, I bet it's 2,000 results. Wow. And we really struggled. My parents were losing $15,000 to $20,000 a month back in 15 years ago. And I don't know about you, Bob, but even me today, I can't afford to lose 15. I don't have $15,000 to $20,000 a month. I can afford to lose every single month and be, oh yeah, it's no problem. Yeah.
Right.
So my mom came up to me and said, Eiji, help us turn this around. You went to college, help us with our marketing. And there's nothing in college that will teach you about marketing. But I did what I knew, and I interviewed my family from my high-tech days as a recruiter, interviewing what made them unique and what made them stand out. And I found out, it's like, our family and another family with a distribution company, we formed a collaborative partnership to bring the sushi bar concept over to America in the 60s. And then in 1978, we opened the first fast food sushi restaurant in Santa Monica Place, which was an indoor mall right across from the promenade today. Now it's an outdoor mall. And that's where I was waiting tables. And I saw how there's innovators where our family friends invented the California roll, to early adopters. These are your creatives, your artists, your athletes who are always on the cutting edge of fashion or style. And I'm waiting tables. It's fast casual. I'm in junior high. And I'm seeing people dressed up to the nines in their white blazers and pants and fluorescent shirts. So, I mean, we're in California, but it was total Miami Vice,
Right.
And serving LA Clippers star Michael Cage, who was the rebounding champ at the time. But there's this movement of popularity. And by time today now, it's like sushi is, commonplace. There's more Americanized sushi variations here than in Japan, and sushi's in Costco, 7-Eleven, so now sushi's the cool thing when it was the not cool thing. So one thing I realized is if you live long enough, whatever wasn't cool will become cool today. And, I don't know if you remember, I forgot if it was some whiskey commercial, or maybe it's Budweiser too. It just it shows the cycles of their design, and they end up going full circle back to the original design at some time or so. And it's just really, really cool. But yeah, most recently, it's just really, I made a full commitment to serve God and honor my purpose. And I've been trained, and I think this is one of the key messages, is I was not qualified to do what I'm doing when I first started, but through the process of being called, I got qualified as I went. So there are many times where I fell flat on my face. I picked myself back up. I took action, got feedback, some positive, some not so positive, took those lessons and course corrected. And I think it's all part of the journey. It's like being able to experiment, being able to pivot, and continuing to refine. And I think that, it's something now to the point where, it's like that question, what would I do? Even if I knew I would fail, this is what I'm doing. Even if I knew I would fail or would not go out as the way it's supposed to, I'll know that I've done my part to at least carry the torch for someone else to take, for them to carry on. Or if it inspires one person to do some good in their own community or in their country or in the world, I think it'll all be worth it. Because Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos, I loved his quote. It says, "Chase the vision, not the money, and the money will follow you." And I think that's the key, is when we live that purpose-driven life. And when I lived in Orange County, I loved going to Saddleback and seeing Pastor Rick Warren. And I think those are some key distinctions. But yeah, I think those are, as far as movement makers, I was born into one. And then I was at a class, one of Clinton's classes in San Diego. And I was at a movement right at the beginning where someone had an idea, saying they saw the YouTube video of the free hugs video. Remember the free hugs video on YouTube? Guy in Europe or so, at first everyone's all uncomfortable until the first person gave them a hug and everyone started giving hugs and it became contagious. So we all watched that video and said, let's give out these hugs. This is 10 years ago today, around 2009. So we gave out hugs in Mission Beach, but a class of 40 of us in 3 days, we built a website, designed T-shirts, got the PayPal link working for donations. A friend of mine, Tiamo De Vittori, created a custom song, and it went viral and started selling T-shirts and making money for this Hug It Forward nonprofit. And so after the class, we were all psyched at what we could do when we all just pulled together and just did our part in 3 days. And then a core team developed. They went to Europe, gave out hugs in Europe. When they went to Central America in a country called Guatemala, they found God's bigger plan, the bigger vision. And so the streets were littered in trash, and someone had the crazy idea, which I would have never thought of, is why don't we take this trash and stuff them in the plastic Pepsi and Coke bottles, and then put chicken wire over them and build a school out of them. I would have never in my wildest dreams have thought that. And the bottle school concept was created. The first bottle school was created where the villagers, the children, they took the trash off the streets, and then they actually recycled unrecyclable in the first bottle school. And to date, since then, over 150 schools have been built out of those bottle schools, donated, just because one person said, let's give out hugs in San Diego. And I said, there's something here. There's something here with the sushi. God's putting me in these places, and there's these connections with these movements. And the lesson I learned there was, you don't have to see the whole staircase, as Martin Luther King says. You just need to see the next step. And Eli Call, at the time, his next step was, let's give out hugs in San Diego. So, anyone watching live, if you have this oomph or this fire in your belly or aching in your heart to just start something, go start it now, because God's plan will show and unfold and be shown to you as you take action. But the clues won't show when we're just sitting still. We have to move so we could get feedback. And so that's how I started Movement Makers. And it's like, and then people come into my life saying, this is what I don't know. And I tell you, this isn't all coming from me. It's coming from people I interview, applying their knowledge and wisdom, and also discussions as well. So it's been quite a journey, quite a journey for sure.
Well, I remember coming out and speaking for your group out in Palm Springs. A few years ago. That was a great experience and a great group of people. So, but you've even pivoted a little bit from that and really gotten clear on your messaging. And, there's all kinds of people that have what you're calling, they've got a vision. They know they're supposed to be doing something more. I mean, look, anybody with half a brain knows that they're not living at their full potential yet. So
yes.
The bottom line, they know that there's something more they're supposed to do. How do you help them identify what that something more is?
Well, I think it's a couple things. Is really that's something more. There's a couple pieces. I see people having two movements. The first movement or the first purpose is to really heal from our core wound, whatever our core wound is. So generally, so at first my core wound was feeling different and not unique. So I'm healing people by helping people find their uniqueness. But as I started healing myself through that in isolation and feeling depressed and bringing community together as well. So generally you'll see like Lisa Nichols, she was suicidal as a teenager. So she created some work around suicide, but that wasn't her greatest gift in the world. That was a part of healing her wound. We heal our wounds by helping others with their wounds that were similar to ours, right? And so once we're healed from that, then a second movement emerges that's totally unrelated to our wounds, and the bigger picture is shown. So this is where you see like parents, who may have lost their child to cancer, then they create a foundation and things like that. And that could be for their full lifetime, or they may find something else. So, but the second movement, I believe, is really God will show you that. So part of that is getting to know yourself first, and then connecting with God, asking instead of what you want. Because if you ask, what do I want in my life? Then you're already coming from a self-centered perspective. Instead, ask, what does life want out of me? Or God, what do you want me to do? How can I be in service? How can I be a conduit and allow me to be where you want me to be? And then people will come into your life, because we're all messengers. I know you're a messenger of God, and there's things that you say. I know you have probably things like, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I feel moved to tell you this. Yeah. And it's like, because we're all messengers, and it's like, and God shows up through people. And it's like money shows up through people, but it all comes from God. Yeah. And so it's really like the messengers, and I believe we're all messengers, and we're all teachers. I mean, whether we like it or not, You know, we're either teaching people to be an example or model, or to be a warning of what not to do. And I'm sure I've done many things on what not to do. So,
Likewise.
so I think it's really about finding out the patterns of, it's that intersection. And I remember, you know, one of your, you know, Richard Barrier, who is the Next Level, and he does these Japanese pottery and stuff. But there's this concept in Japanese called ikigai, which is like, it's like through 4 circles of like kind of what you love to do, what your purpose is, what you can make money on, your vocation, and also, you know, what your calling is, or your contribution. But it's really finding that sweet spot of, you know, really what is within your heart, what is within your talents as well. So, because we have to honor our talents. I love basketball, but there's no possibility for me to make the NBA. You know, zero, even if I got the best mentoring, coaching. So we got to, but the key is talent is really necessary. It's what we have. Sometimes we may have hidden talents, but here's the key is we need to develop skills within our talents. And I think you probably met a lot of people, you've been associated with a lot of sports and athletes, and you could see there are people who are super talented, but they don't have the work ethic to develop the skills. They're not going to stay around for much longer. And it's the ones who, the people who are the best, they're not necessarily the most talented, but they have enough talent, but they develop the skills at such a high level that they work harder. Like Derek Jeter works harder than anyone else. No one can outwork me, out-practice me. And that's how they develop that greatness. And then the uniqueness piece is our experience. I think God puts experiences in our lives to learn lessons, to teach others, because I probably hit rock bottom, I'd say about 5 times in my life. And each time, you know, brought me closer to God. And it's those, you know, moments of, God, if you ever get me out of this, you know, I promise to, but learning to honor those promises, because, you know, I made a deal as well. And really understand, but there are so many people out there who are in that, stuck in a hole or in a deep pit. And we can be the light at the end of the tunnel and show that there is a way out, because we've been there as well. So I feel that the calling is the calling from God, but then there's people praying for us to show up. Like, it may not be like directly, like people may not be directly stating your name, but they're just saying, please send me a solution. And that's where there's so many people calling for us to come up, to show up and step up and to really contribute.
So when you're talking about movement makers and you're talking to somebody who says, okay, I know I'm meant to do something more. I just don't know what it is yet. You're saying you got to take the first step. Take something that you know that you should do, take that, and then just do that. Yeah. And then something else may develop along the way. It doesn't have to be that, like you said, there could be two movement, you know, two purposes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just when you're stuck, take any step. It doesn't matter which direction, just get moving. And then the next step will show to you, because you'll know if you're driving the wrong way, you'll know when to make a U-turn. If you're driving the right way, you'll eventually know. You got to just keep moving. And the first way when it comes to movements is, I recommend, if you're not clear on what your movement is, then join a movement, participate, contribute, so you can understand how a movement works on the inside. So there's so many great worthy movements out there, you know, with veterans, with so many different causes, that join a movement that you're passionate about and learn. And then you're going to find what your contribution is. But also, I think it's part of your movement is really, we created a new event called Start Your Movement. And what that is when you're starting a movement, I think it's really important to clarify what your vision is. And your vision is your ideal vision, your utopian future of what, like, without any constraints, what is the world you see to inspire people? You know, it's like, it could be bold, where I see a world where no child ever dies from hunger, you know? And it's like, who's going to be like, no, I can't, I'm not into that. Everyone's going to be in. So you want to make it idealistic. And then your mission is like your 10-year project, and be specific.
Mm.
So, so maybe let's just say child hunger. Then it's like our mission is over the next 10 years that we feed, 100,000 children, on a daily basis. We sponsor 10,000 children, or it could be your local community. Say, over the next 10 years, our mission is to sponsor 1,000 children to get healthy meals every single day, and something that people could get behind. And then your purpose is why you do what you do. The purpose of my life is to ignite souls, to light people up. I think I've known that ever since I went to my first Tony Robbins seminar back in 2001, where he did one of those interventions and brought the light back into someone's eyes. And I said, wow, that's magic. I want to do that. And I feel like that's what we can do is when we're being ourselves, and we don't have to be a speaker. And this is, I think, one of your greatest strengths, Bob, is of your personal one-on-one connection where you see someone who's in need, and then you go and meet them, and you see, and you commit, you connect, you listen, you empathize, and then you also lift them up from fear to hope. And I think it's one of those things where it doesn't always have to be from the biggest stages. A lot of the biggest contributions is almost all of the biggest contributions is done in private that people never ever know about. And I think it's really about what is your purpose? Why are you here? But you don't need to know specific. There's many ways to fulfill your purpose. And as long as you're I have 4 core actions of purpose. As long as you're loving, you're here to love, you're here to live, you're here to grow, and you're here to give. So as long as you're loving people, if you're living your life, enjoying life, if you're growing and getting to your next level and reaching your highest potential, and you're giving, if you have all those 4 components, you're fully living your purpose. And when you do it fully, you live a fulfilled life where you can love fully, live fully, grow fully, and give fully. That's when you have a fully filled life. And I think that's a secret. As long as you incorporate those components, you don't have to get stuck, because I could be living my purpose in many, many different ways, but this is the path I'm on now.
Yeah. So I love all that. That's a great explanation of a movement. I want to know what makes a movement viable.
What makes a movement viable? There's some key components. First is you need a first follower, right? So you need your key partner who will validate it, because any single person, if you're a loner, and there's a lot of, I'm a recovering lone wolf and isolationist. I like my alone time. I like my, man caves are great. I love man caves, and it's alone time. Yeah. And also women watching, men are not going alone instead of you. They're doing it for you so they can recharge and be more of a man for you. Mm-hmm. They're not doing it because they want to be away from you. They're doing it because they want to recharge and be the best man they can be. Mm-hmm. So that's a key distinction there. But a lone wolf with no followers is considered a lunatic, like crazy. So you need that first follower to validate and also bring in your core. So, I mean, if you look at, Pastor Rick Warren has a great leadership system called SALT, Saddleback Advanced Leadership Training. And he shows, like, you develop a core team, how Jesus did with the disciples. And then you have a larger group and keep on spreading. But it is a lead. So you need to have leadership skills. You need to develop a team of leaders. You need to have a leadership structure as well. So there's a couple different ways. One is you could see how Jesus did it with the disciples. Another good example that we're using is how the military uses it, where we have fire teams, and then 3 to 4 fire teams make up a squad. 3 to 4 squads make up, I believe, a battalion, not a battalion, battalion, I think. But, there's an organizational system, so each person is not leading more than 3 to 4 or 5 people. So it's really easy to manage. If we're leading like 50 people all directly, it's too difficult. So leadership structure. The other piece is you need to have a clear message, so getting clear on that vision, mission, purpose, and how do you voice it in a speech or a talk to rally the troops, to enroll your army of advocates. And Martin Luther King, I have a dream was a rally cry, but what most people don't know, there's a lot that most people don't know about Martin Luther King's I have a dream. What most people don't know is that he delivered snippets of each of those pieces in hundreds of talks, which all culminated into this one, historic talk, most considered one of the best speeches of all time.
Yeah.
And also what most people don't know is he wanted to quit. He wanted to quit, and he said, I don't know if it's going to work. Maybe I shouldn't. And he had doubts. I have doubts. When you're doing something great, it's natural to have some doubts. If you don't have any doubts, you might be thinking a little too small.
Amen.
And he asked this. Can you imagine Martin Luther King going, Bob, I don't know. What if no one shows up tomorrow in Washington at the march? As speakers, and if we ever done an event, we've all had those thoughts, like, oh, people show up, and 250,000 people showed up. But even still, in the beginning, if you listen to the whole speech, in the beginning, it's a little dry. He's in his head. But then there's this woman who shouts out, tell him about the dream. Tell him about the dream. And then, boom, that's all he needed. That was his core team. And he just got, okay, now I know what to share. And what he literally did was channeled the Holy Spirit and spoke with spiritual authority. His legs were shaking because he was channeling this information, not information, but the words. But it wasn't not necessarily just the words. It was his energy that moved people. And I think that core message is key. And then last but not least, and actually there's a couple things, and this is actually, both of these are versions of our framework, you first got to ignite your soul. You got to start, get your vision, mission, purpose, get your first follower. You need to voice in terms of craft your message, and then monetize. You need a financial engine. You need something that's going to fund your movement, because, if you don't have the funds to meet your personal needs, you may have to sacrifice the vision, mission, purpose to feed your family or to pay your mortgage or your rent. So you need to have a financial engine. And here's the key is the financial engine doesn't always have to be coming from your movement. Sometimes it could be, maybe you're really so good at something that people pay you a lot of money for. Maybe you lost some passion in it, but if you could just do it for like 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week to fund your movement and give that work some purpose, then go for it, because sometimes there's things that, we may be really good at or actually at a high level, but it may not be our heart's desire. But if we tie it into a higher meaning of what that money can do to fund your movement, then great. Sometimes you can make money from your movement, and other times you could get a benefactor or a grant, where in the old days, artists like Picasso, Michelangelo got commissioned to do their work. And I think that's kind of almost, I wish that's one thing I'd like to see more in the world, is people who have a great cause and a movement or so, that they get commissioned and sponsored to do the work they're here to do, that they don't have to worry about paying their rent or feeding their family, and they could do the best work that they can for the world. And that's something where I think more and more people are kind of starting to lean towards, but we need leadership. And then once you make the money, then you need to learn how to leverage it and how to make it one-to-many, how to get a team, how to lead a team, because, a lot of high performers, they may perform great individually, but they may be horrible coaches or leaders or managers. Michael Jordan will never be a great NBA basketball coach, because what drove him to be successful as an individual is not going to be the same skills to teach others, and then you need to learn how to scale it. Once you have something leveraged and automated, then you can scale up. But those are the core components, and it's a multi-year process. It could be a multi-decade process, but find something noble, worthy that you're willing to devote the rest of your life for, and then time is on your side. And with leadership, just like with Moses and Joshua, most people think Moses took the Israelites to the promised land. He got them halfway there, and then Joshua finished it. So you need to find people to carry it on, because you can't have the movement or your message or the message, and it's not your message or your mission. It's our mission. It's the higher power's mission, God's mission. And so, I don't claim like this movement's mine. It's not, I'm just a conduit and the steward of it.
Yeah. So you have something coming up pretty soon that I saw on Facebook. Can you talk about what that event is that you have coming up?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have an event coming up next week called Start Your Movement, and it's in Orange County in Irvine. And for those who are not local or can't travel, where we've noticed there's a lot of powerful people who are unable to travel because they got to caretake a family member or a pet, or, you know, or just travel's not convenient. Maybe they're in, you know, we may be having someone watching like Europe right now or Australia, and it's just not convenient to take a last minute flight. So we do have a live stream option available. So it's next week, September 13th through 15th. And this is where you get clear on your vision, mission, purpose. And our promise is that you're going to recruit or enroll your first follower by having that message within the event or through your network. And you're going to meet at least 3 collaboration partners at the event. And you're going to learn the building blocks of what it takes to really start a movement, because, you know, I think that's the missing gap in the marketplace and in the world is people want to do good, but they don't know how. They don't know where to start or how to begin. So that's what we're going to teach you there. And yeah, so our website is startyourmovement.org, startyourmovement.org. And, you know, if you want to come, you know, I know it's totally last minute, but there's a code that you could come as my guest, which is really at cost. It's SYM guest, SYM guest, all caps, SYM guest, and that's going to reduce the tuition. You'll see a significant tuition. So go there, see what I don't want to announce it because it may change. So it's like, but it's a significant savings where we're really covering at cost for the general mission, the VIP, SYM guest. So. Yes, that's the event. I highly recommend. It's a who's who, you know, a who's who of coming in. And I think this is the evolution of the event you came at the Movement Makers Playground. Because at first it's like, I didn't, you know, it was completely new idea. So I brought a lot of my colleagues and peers to share. And then now over the last 2 years, I've been meeting people who've been giving me the structure, interviewing people, what it takes. And now it's something that we can actually teach as well and combine all the best elements of our Movement Makers Playground that we did 2-3 years ago to now turn this in. And it's not exclusive. Now, you know, we have an exclusive mastermind, but the event is inclusive so that any single person who's got a good heart, you know, with pure intention can come and do good in their community where they could create a micro movement, or if they're a big visionary, then they could create a mega movement.
Love it. Love it. Well, Eiji, I just appreciate all that you're doing out there, spreading messages, spreading opportunities, encouraging people to step up and do things that maybe they're uncomfortable doing, they're uncertain about, and then also for providing such training and education for them to be able to do that and learn how to do that from you. So, guys, if you get an opportunity to go to this, go. No matter what product or service or anything that you're involved in will benefit from what you can learn from this and from Eiji and his people. So plug into that. But I see it in the chat message. So there's the information is there, how to get the discounted passes and all that stuff. So Eiji, again, appreciate you, brother. Just love seeing you and your family and just grow and prosper. And see all the things that you're doing to make the world a better place. So thank you for that, and thanks for being on the call today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Appreciate Bob. And let me just say, I owe a debt of gratitude for you because I feel like your connectology experience, I forgot if it was 1 day or 2 day. Was it a 1 day intensive years ago? Like 7, and we went around and it was so powerful. I mean, I really, you know, I would have made the connections I've made, and I feel like Forrest Gump sometimes, where I'm just in the right place at the right time, meeting amazing people. But the skills I learned through connectology was huge in helping me along the journey. And also, I think this is key. But one thing I do want to share is, you know, my background's in economics, and there's a key economic trend that's going on. And even if impact, and, you know, there may be some people who say, making impact is important, but you know what? I really need to make income, or what's important at this stage of my life is freedom and lifestyle. And what's happening is if you can add a movement or doing good as part of your business, it will protect your business from market crashes, and because you'll have a loyal following of raving fans who will keep you alive, just like Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson was going to go bankrupt, and then the loyal fans, the raving fans, kept them alive. But the key thing is that there's something called conscious consumerism going on, where people are voting with their dollars. And the two biggest voting markets right now are women, and women tend to vote with a conscious. They choose who they buy from. So 60, 70, up to 80% buying decisions are women. And then millennials. Millennials are larger than the baby boomers, and they're already voting with their dollars right now. A lot of the hotels are not getting as much business from millennials. They're getting Airbnb or staying at friends, couch surfing instead. So there's some shifts that are going on in the marketplace. And so by doing good and promoting your purpose within your business, not because it's strategic, although I highly recommend it, it's because it's who you are. It's going to protect your business long term. So I just want to make sure that's shared as well.
Great point. Definitely. Well, brother, tell the family I said hi. Give those little ones a hug, and your wife, and let's catch up soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Bob. I really appreciate you having me here.
All right, brother. Take care.
Okay. Thank you.